Okay, so back in 2016, I believe it was March, a young and naive Aztecross decided to play a From Software game. Now, I've heard the rumors that Soul games were as hard as they come, that no other game could match it, and only the best of the best could beat those games. Arrogantly, I bought it thinking, hey, I'm gonna go up in there and show them how it's done, and within the first hour, I was completely demoralized. But then, out of nowhere, maybe it was a stroke of luck, maybe it was some sort of mental conditioning, I suddenly became one with the game. I suddenly started reading the movements, the patterns, and I killed my first boss in a Dark Souls game. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't concise, and I'm pretty sure I just got super lucky. But whatever the case, the pride I had in this one achievement has been the thing that has spurred me into From Software games ever since. So today, guys, we are looking at Sekiro. This game was teased, I want to say a couple years ago, and man, did the speculations go crazy. Some thought it was going to be like Bloodborne 2, and then E3 of last year, we got a confirmation that it was going to be called Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Not in the same universe as Soul games, but in feudal Japan, where you play as a shinobi. Today, guys, I just want to go over some impressions and make some comparisons between this and Soul games. But honestly, guys, if I could compare this to any other From Software game, I would say that Sekiro Shadows Die Twice could be more easily compared to something like Bloodborne. But even so, this game is actually being said to be harder than any other From Software game before, which is pretty incredible. Now, the reason why I think the difficulty is present more so in this game than any other game is because of the combat system. The combat system is just not you rolling around, hacking and slashing, but instead, it's all about your posture. Essentially, as you begin to fight an enemy, the more strikes you deliver, as well as the more strikes that you counter, results in this meter increasing. And upon maxing out that meter, you'll now be granted a death blow, which is what you're always going to try to achieve with anything. And no matter what boss you really go against, or mini boss, you got to have a death blow in order to defeat that enemy. So the conclusions that's been drawn to Dark Souls games and saying why this game, Sekiro, is more difficult, I believe is because it requires you to adapt to this combat system. And the game also requires you to use all of your mechanics at your disposal. Some of the mini bosses I went up against had different attacks. And for each attack, there was a certain move or dodge ability that you had to do in order to evade their attacks. This really makes you zone in on your enemies and start looking at all of their movements. And one mistake can result in you getting messed up. A really cool feature, but can be very frustrating, as sometimes the movements can actually be crossed into others. They could be going for a sweep attack, but then immediately go in for a grab. And again, I'm very much in the beginning of the game, but this is a system that From Software has incorporated that has increased the difficulty outside of what we've normally seen in previous From Software games. Not only that, it seems that everything has somewhat of a weakness or something that can be exploited in a way. I eavesdropped on a conversation and found them talking about the prisoner above in chains that had a weakness or a fright to fire. Now I tried to fight this guy square up and immediately got killed a number of times. If I was a better player, I may have been able to kill him without ever incorporating fire. But I actually tracked down something called like a fireball cannon, which I then returned back to that guy and was finally able to kill him. So again, what From Software is trying to do with this game is it wants you to incorporate everything. Pay attention to everything. Eavesdrop, get an idea of your enemy without just putting it in your face and showing you how to beat your enemy. Now this kind of gives me hope, because even the hardest of bosses that I'll face deeper into the game, I feel like there'll be something there I could possibly exploit to help me. Now granted, it's not just going to give you the immediate win, but with how difficult everything is in this game, I would highly suggest taking advantage of everything at your disposal. Now what's so interesting about combat in Sekiro versus previous games is that it takes advantage of our vertical game, which is very interesting. Souls games, everything's normally played on the same field, the X-axis, and that's pretty much all the movement you have. Having our prosthetic arm here and the ability to lift ourselves to all these different rooftops opens up the game in so many different ways. It opens it up greatly in combat, getting the vertical sneak attack on enemies, getting behind enemies, sifting through different places that are crowded as to not be seen. I am a huge fan of this vertical game, but even other things. finding different hidden paths, going to different locations that you would never be able to travel to in a Souls game unless From Software laid it out for us, to me feels like an invisible wall, which I have not run across yet, but you can visibly see a location and say to yourself, how can I get there? And then figure out a way to get to that place. All of this only being possible with the tools on our prosthetic arm. Now, speaking of those tools, that's where the game really starts to open up as well. As you progress deeper into Sekiro, you find more and more of these tools. Now, so far, I can equip up to 3 of them, and I've got one that's like a big axe, another one that is the fire cannon, of course, that I used to take down that prisoner in chains, and my other one is my ninja stars, which can kill dogs in 1 hit. These tools, though, are extremely useful, and like I said, they could be the difference between you progressing and beating that certain boss or not at all. Now, the difference here between this game and like Dark Souls games is you don't really have the RPG elements in terms of making a build. Being a knight, a pyro, a sorcerer, you don't have those abilities. You are a shinobi, which is why I said this game is more comparable to something like Bloodborne. But the skill trees definitely change up the playstyles. And you have a skill tree not only for your shinobi, but you also have one for your prosthetic arm. And I haven't gotten to the point yet where I feel like I need a certain skill to take on certain bosses, but I feel like that is coming as some of these skills really start to separate themselves and allow you to do things like engage at a little further ranges than others, evade a little better, take advantage of your tools more often. Upgrades like that is what makes our shinobi here much more powerful and more adept at taking on challenges. But again, like every From Software game from before, no matter how powerful you may get, there is always something that just absolutely shits on us. So far guys, I'm a huge fan of Sekiro. It's a lot of fun. If you're a fan of any Souls game or if you're a fan of Bloodborne, Sekiro is going to be right up your alley. I have seen some complaints that the game is a little too difficult, but for me personally, I think it just adds to the challenge and achievement as you progress further in this game. From Software games is not for everyone. Again, like I said, the first time I ever dabbled in one, I was completely demoralized. I wanted to quit so bad, but as a gamer, something deep within us pushes us further to almost to the point of insanity. But when you actually prevail, there is no better feeling, at least for me in gaming. It is a glorious feeling. So guys, try it out, man. Well, fellas and ladies, let me know how you're enjoying the game. I'm interested if any of you are playing it. I know we normally only play like first-person shooters and looters. Some of you probably didn't even know I'm a huge fan of From Software, but I love them, man. They are addicting, and trust me, you're gonna love it too. Well, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.